Those were the first words. Karen screeched across the park as my fiancé and I stood beneath an old oak tree, nervously holding hands on what was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. It was a golden Saturday morning, the sun spilling across the lawn, birds chirping like a movie soundtrack, and suddenly, the whole thing felt hijacked by a voice sharper than a car alarm. Now, let me back up for just a second. We didn't pick a fancy wedding hall or rent a vineyard. We chose the town park. Simple, open, and meaningful. This was where we had our first picnic, where he proposed under the fireworks last July, and where our families often gathered for birthdays. It wasn't some random patch of grass. It was our place. We knew the rules. Small gatherings without amplified sound or structures didn't require a permit. We had about 20 people, a guitar player, and folding chairs. Nothing outrageous. Still, Karen decided she was the self-appointed sheriff of public spaces. Her first complaint was that we were blocking the walking trail. That was false. We set up on the far side of the park, away from joggers and dog walkers. Then she shouted that our decorations, 2 strings of fairy, lights in a couple, bouquets, were against city code. Wrong again. But Karen didn't stop there. She marched closer, her phone already in hand, dramatically narrating into the camera like she was filming a true crime exposé. Local hooligans taking over public land. Our guests shifted uncomfortably. My mother squeezed my arm and whispered, "Ignore her. Just breathe." But my fiancé's jaw tightened. He's the calm type, but seeing our wedding threatened by someone who had nothing better to do, it lit a fire in him. And then, as if the universe wanted to test us further, Karen shouted the one thing that froze everyone in place. "I'm calling the mayor right now. You'll all be fined." "The mayor? Really?" People chuckled nervously. Someone muttered, "She's bluffing." But within 20 minutes, a black town car rolled up by the curb. Out stepped Mayor Thompson in his signature gray suit, tie loose like he'd been dragged out of brunch. Karen crossed her arms triumphantly, smirking as if she'd summoned divine justice. What none of us expected was that the mayor didn't come to shut us down. He came with a completely different agenda, one that would change the course of our day forever. The mayor's polished shoes crunched on the gravel path as he approached. Our entire group stood in uneasy silence, torn between embarrassment and curiosity. Karen, of course, was beaming like she had just won a lawsuit. She pointed dramatically at us, her voice shrill and full of self-importance. "Mr. Mayor, these people are illegally occupying the park. They're disturbing the peace, and I demand you put an end to this nonsense." Mayor Thompson paused, glanced at our modest setup, 20 guests, folding chairs, and a guitar, and then looked back at Karen with an expression that said, "Really? This is why you dragged me here?" He finally asked, in his deep baritone voice, "Ma'am, are they playing loud music?" Karen blinked. "No, but are they blocking traffic?" "Well, not traffic, but are they violating any actual law as far as you can tell?" Karen's face flushed. "They don't have a permit." That was her big trump card. Except she didn't know something we did. No permit was required for small gatherings. The mayor sighed, pulling a folded sheet of paper from his inner pocket. With the practiced tone of someone who's explained this 1,000 times, he said, "Section 4.12 of our city ordinance states that groups under 30 people don't need a permit unless they're using sound, amplification, or commercial vendors, which clearly they are not." A wave of relief spread through our guests. My aunt actually clapped her hands. Karen, however, wasn't ready to back down. She crossed her arms tightly. "But Mr. Mayor, this is my park. I walk here every morning. These people are taking over. What if someone wants to jog through?" The mayor tilted his head, clearly trying not to laugh. "Then they can jog around. It's a public park, and they're part of the public." Her smirk faltered. For the first time, Karen looked less like a crusader and more like a cornered cat. Then something incredible happened. The mayor turned to us, eyes softening, and asked, "So, who's officiating?" My fiancé and I exchanged panicked glances. Our original officiant, his cousin, was stuck in traffic, and we hadn't known if he'd even make it on time. I stammered. Well, actually, we're still waiting on him. Mayor Thompson smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling with genuine warmth. Funny thing, he said, I'm licensed. Would you like me to step in? Gasps rippled through our family and friends. Karen's jaw literally dropped. The very man she called to shut us down was now offering to marry us. You could have heard a pin drop under that oak tree when Mayor Thompson made his offer. For a moment, even the birds seemed to pause their chirping. My fiancé squeezed my hand, his eyes wide with a mix of shock and delight. Are you serious? I finally blurted out, my voice breaking the silence. The mayor chuckled. Of course. I've officiated a handful of weddings before, usually at City Hall, not under an oak tree, but I'd be honored. If you'd have me. Our guests erupted into cheers and laughter. My mother wiped her eyes, whispering, This is a story you'll tell your grandkids. Meanwhile, Karen stood frozen, arms still crossed but her mouth slightly open, like a computer buffering on a weak Wi-Fi signal. She sputtered, You can't just… This isn't… But it was, and nothing she said could undo it. We quickly rearranged the chairs into a neat semicircle. The guitar player strummed softly, and the mayor loosened his tie as if settling into his role. My fiancé's cousin, finally, texted that he was still stuck behind an accident on the highway. We replied, Don't worry. We've got it covered. Mayor Thompson began the ceremony with a voice so calm and commanding, you'd think he'd been preparing for this moment all along. We gather here today, he said, not in a grand cathedral or glittering ballroom, but in the heart of our town, a park where love, community, and everyday life meet. Every word carried weight. My heart raced as I glanced at my soon-to-be husband, his eyes glistening with tears. Our family leaned in, listening, completely swept up in the surreal beauty of it all. Then came the vows. We had written them ourselves, and as I spoke mine, my hands trembled. I promised to stand by you even when the world feels against us, even when unexpected Karens appear. That earned a ripple of laughter from the crowd, except for one person, Karen herself, who looked like she'd bitten into a lemon. When my fiancé spoke his vows, he simply said, I promise to fight for us, no matter what, even if it means facing down an angry neighbor with the mayor by our side. The crowd roared with laughter and applause. Finally, the mayor smiled and pronounced us husband and wife. We kissed under that oak tree as petals tossed by our nieces rained down, the guitar swelling in harmony. And just like that, the wedding Karen tried to cancel became the one she could never forget. But the story doesn't end here, because Karen had one last move up her sleeve. As the applause and cheers echoed across the park, Karen was already fumbling with her phone again. She wasn't ready to accept defeat, not yet. With her face redder than a ripe tomato, she dialed someone and muttered loud enough for us all to hear. Yes, officer. I'd like to report an unauthorized public gathering. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Was she seriously calling the police after the mayor himself had just officiated our wedding? The mayor raised an eyebrow, walked over calmly and said, Ma'am, who exactly are you calling? Because I assure you, I'm about as high up the chain as you can get in this town. Karen's eyes darted between him and her phone. For the first time, her bravado cracked. Well, I just thought. Rules are rules. Indeed, the mayor said firmly, and today, the rules worked in their favor. The guests clapped again, but Karen still wouldn't let go. She huffed. Fine, but don't expect me to move out of the way. For your silly pictures. She planted herself right in front of our photographer, arms crossed like a human roadblock. It was my cousin who finally diffused the moment. She called out, Hey, Karen, why don't you join in the photo? You're part of the story now, whether you like it or not. The entire group burst into laughter. Even the mayor chuckled. Karen, realizing she was outnumbered and out of options, stomped off down the path, muttering something about writing a letter to the editor. With her gone, the atmosphere shifted back to joy. We posed for photos, kids ran around with flower petals, and the mayor stuck around, shaking hands and chatting with guests like he'd been invited all along. He even posed for a group photo, standing proudly between us, the newlyweds. Later, as we packed up chairs and gathered decorations, my husband leaned close and whispered, "This wedding turned out better than we ever planned. Who else can say the mayor married them?" I laughed, still dizzy from everything. And who else can say a Karen tried to cancel their wedding and only made it more unforgettable? As we walked away, hand in hand, I looked back at the oak tree, glowing in the golden sunset. Our simple little park wedding had transformed into a story we'd tell for decades. And though Karen had tried to steal the spotlight, she only made our day shine brighter. Because sometimes, the best memories are born out of the most unexpected chaos. And that's how Karen reported our wedding, only for the mayor to show up and make it official. Wild story, right? If you enjoyed hearing how our wedding day turned into a showdown with Karen and the mayor of all people, make sure to hit subscribe for more unbelievable real-life tales. Smash that like button if you think the mayor deserves Wedding Officiant of the Year, and drop a comment below. What would you have done if Karen tried to shut down your big day?